Hello and welcome to NZERS, the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. We've been a little bit delayed tonight, but we are finally back. And it is the end of 6 rounds of online season. Tonight we head to the finale. It's a 2-race event for round 6. We're heading to Watkins, Glen, and then Dragon Trail Gardens. This is a critical part of the online season. Of course, those in the bottom, below the bottom 10 and in the top, just in the top 10 will need to be very careful about the points they gain today. Good results, important for many on the grid. We're looking at everyone from P5 down to P14. It is absolutely essential for them to get the points because on the 16th of November, we're heading to Respawn Esports Centre for the live finals where the champion will take home a brilliant prize of a real-world racing drive with Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand. My name is George Cook, and joining me in the commentary box once again, and I'm back this time, I'm no longer what was referred to in chat as a whiter-looking atom or a different-looking atom. We had the stream name. I still was George Cook, but nonetheless, we're back, and joining me in the comments box, of course, is Nathan. Nathan, how?
Hey, good evening, guys. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all led up to this, hasn't it? We've seen some pretty good action. We've seen some intense, some interesting stories play out. Some hardship, some luck. But yeah, we've got 2 more races, and so that's 2 more chances for people to, like you say, to secure their ticket in Wellington.
Exactly right. And we're so looking forward to this live finals on the 16th. Only the top 10 drivers get there. They get championship points based on where they finish in the top 10 at the end of the online season, which is absolutely critical. But for those in Div 2 now, that's it. We have only 14 drivers locked into our Division 1 for this race. No one has removed themselves from this race and not expecting any DNSs or DNFs. We've got a full lobby and we're ready to go because we are keen to get into things today. First of all, we've got to get through our sponsors and the track information. So we're going to do a little bit of a speed run here tonight, I think, Nathan. We're going to try and speed run through some information. So let me start off, of course, with our sponsors. Our primary sponsor, of course, being Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand, and they are sponsoring the main prize, which is a factory drive in a Toyota Gazoo Racing NZ supported drive, Toyota 86 trophy car. So it's a huge prize, bringing sim races into the real world. Very cool. So a big thank you to Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand for their sponsorship. Then, of course, Respawn Esports and Secret Labs, who are providing all the amazing support to the broadcast, the administration, and, of course, the location for the grand finals, the live finals in Wellington at the Respawn Esports Centre. And then we've got Next Level Racing generously providing us a number of prizes, of course. We've got the Haptics and the GT Pro Lite. So 2 really awesome prizes. We've showcased them a number of times. We'll be talking more about them as we head to the live finals. Big thank you to Next Level Racing for those. Those will be going to the 2nd and 3rd placing competitors in the live finals event. And then a big thank you to Red Bull New Zealand as well. And they'll be chipping in some slabs of Red Bull, which is always great. Get the energy rolling for the sim racing. So a big thank you to all the sponsors here at this year's event of New Zealand Esports Racing Series, the 2nd season that we have run. So let's talk championship standings, Nathan, because there are some big stories to be told. One of the biggest ones, of course, Monkey Matt returning to the field, and he's got a lot of work to do out there on the grid today.
Yeah, he's missed the last couple of rounds, which has been a massive blow to his championship efforts. Couple of good results here, and this is a double header again. They're full points. We don't do half point double headers or anything. So a couple of good results here, and he might just squeeze in. You know, there are a few people like that. There are a few people who could have a good night and squeeze in, or they might have a shocker and they might just miss out. But Monkey Matt is definitely one of the favourites. He was absolutely on form last season, and you know, when he made it to Wellington, I think he was 3rd overall once everything was said and done. So definitely he's one of the favourites to come back, but again, missing those 2 critical races, it's such a blow to his efforts. He'll be really wanting to do well this time.
Exactly, and we think he needs to get 2 top 5 finishes in a row or thereabouts to try and elevate himself. He's currently on 84 points, P10, which is Scotty Ray, on 90 points. There's only 6 points in it, so he just needs to do better than all those at the bottom of the grid. So just a quick rundown of where everyone's at. Angus Allen, P14 at the moment, 72 points. Monkey Matt, that's Matthew Smith on 84 points. Andre, that's Stone Harbour on 85. Olaf Flesh, Clan Fever, of course, on 88. Then it's Scotty Ray, Greenlees on 90. 91 points to Ben Groves, the young up-and-comer. Campbell Knowles, P8 at the moment, 95 points. Ben McDonald on 98 points. That's Crimson. Then we've got Caleb Birtles, P6 at the moment on 107. And Reese Davidson, P5 on 121. Lewis Atkinson on P4 on 124 points. And we'll talk about our top three in just a second when we get to the info slides. But key there, Nathan, for those bottom four, that's Angus Allen, Matthew Smith, Andre, and Olaf Flesch to do well, and critical for Greenlees, Groves, Knowles, and McDonald to also do really well because their positions are up for grabs right now.
100%. And see, again, all of those names are totally deserving. There's no one there that you sort of think, oh, maybe they don't deserve to be there. But yeah, this is just, it's been such a close, hotly contested, almost cutthroat competition because, again, these are the top drivers in the country. And like you said, there's no more Div 2 promotions. There's no more relegation issue. These are the top. These are your top 14 that you're looking at right now. Fastest, most accomplished guys in New Zealand. And top 10 are going to make it to Wellington. So some people are going to miss out. And like you say, it might be hard luck for some. It might be a ripper of a race for these guys. We just have to wait and see, don't we?
We do indeed. And of course, you can make your way down to Wellington, even if you're in the top 10 or not. Come down, have a relax with us because we're going to be doing some great sim racing. It's always good to meet everyone in person and to build that New Zealand sim racing community. It's what we're all about. Last year was so awesome in Wellington. Got to meet all the drivers, got to meet a lot of people from around the community as well. Brilliant to see a lot of people flooding into Wellington. So we hope to see the same this year. So even if you miss out, don't worry, you're still invited for free. You don't have to pay for tickets. We don't have any paid tickets. Okay,
Yeah,
Nathan.
definitely pick up some food though, because it's tell you what, Respawn Esports, there's some good grub.
Oh yeah, and we will recommend some food, I tell you, we will. Okay, let's move on to our info slides. Let's talk about our top three in this race. First race tonight, of course, going to Watkins Glen, but let's talk drivers first, because leading the championship right now is Matthew McEwen. He is on 174 points. He is confirmed for a top 10 finish, and he will be at the live finals. Of course, the Palmerston North driver. He's an esports racing champion. He's spun out during doing a Grand Prix prize race day. Legend. He's been absolutely dominating in the season. 2 race wins in a row in round 4 and round 5, and that gives him, I believe, 4 to his name across 5 rounds of racing. So only 1 round where it hasn't really gone his way, or 2 rounds technically, because race 2 and round 3 didn't get the podium position there. So let's see what he can do in this doubleheader tonight. Simon Bishop, the next driver on our list here, of course, very famous man. He's been representing New Zealand on the world stage for a long time, the Dunedin driver, Psydog, as he's well known. 2 second-place finishes back-to-back. Now, we know that he is a real lover of Watkins Glen, so this might be his chance to take a win. He is also, though, confirmed for the live finals. 159 points across the online season so far. Mathematically, can't be knocked out. Then we're going to talk about Gareth Collier here. That's Dive Cable. He's a little bit of a surprise result up there in P3. But he has done some amazing driving this season. He's had 2 third-place finishes in the last 2 rounds on 127 points. Not mathematically confirmed for the live finals, but he'd have to have an atrocious evening, Nathan, if he were to do so. So there's our top 3 at the moment. Let's talk about the car. Nathan, it's been a beautiful series so far in the 86 Group 4. I'm almost sad that this is our last evening with this beautiful car.
Yeah, not sure if we have told them yet, but we won't be using the 86 for the live finals. So like you say, this is the last time we get to see the Group 4 Toyota 86 in action. It's just been such a perfect little race car, hasn't it? I mean, we keep singing its praises every round about how well it handles and how well balanced it is, and it's good looking as well. I mean, some of these liveries too, and we'll be talking about the livery competition a little bit later on, but some of these designs that people have been coming up with, and yeah, just every measurable aspect of this car, it's certainly it does the business.
Certainly does. The track today, we've got 2 races, of course. Watkins Glen is where we go first. 5.42 kilometers here in New York State, 11 corners, and this is the long course as well. So we do get to go through the toe and the heel, the boot. It is known as that sector. A beautiful piece of racing course. Turns 5 to 8, high-speed chicane. Okay, so drivers will run close to the track limits there. You've got to be absolutely careful. It's the bus stop chicane. There is a lot of overtaking opportunity and a lot of opportunity to put your car in the wall at those locations. Got to be very, very careful. Turns 10 to 13 as well. Twisting corners, and this is just coming through into the toe. and then you go up the hill, round the right-hander, down the little back straight into turn 12, where you go back down the hill. Very tricky braking zone to turn 12, and key to get this all hooked up so you can get back onto that pit straight. This is a favorite course of mine, Nathan. You might have noticed by the passion. You've driven it heaps as well. It is a place of speed.
Yeah, it's a very high speed track, very technically demanding as well. There aren't too many spots where you can sort of have a bit of a mental break. Obviously, there's a few short straights, but the entire length, you're gearing up for what comes ahead because again, that damn chicane and the boot is known to catch even the best of them out. Like you say, it is the favourite of Psydogs, and it's you enjoy it, and I certainly enjoy it. But yeah, it doesn't come without its challenges too, and the pit entry too, which I mean, we've these guys will probably be grateful that this is only a sprint race, not a feature, because if they had to do a pit stop, this is probably one of the trickiest pit entries to get right, isn't it, George?
Absolutely. It is absolutely bedlam down there at the pit entry when people come in. It is a tricky area to get right, and even the pit exit is actually very tricky to get right as well if you've got fast moving traffic coming through turn 1. Speaking of pit stops, well, you're absolutely right. It's no pit stops today. Today we are on the racing soft tyres. Tyres ×1, fuels ×3, so fuel really the only thing you have to think about at all 10 laps around this course today for this first race. So the tyres expected to last all the way through there. Got to do a little bit of management, make sure you don't burn them up too much. But this is going to be a fantastic little sprint, full points available for this race, even though it's a lot shorter. So I'm expecting to see a lot of overtakes, a lot of opportunities, sent at, because if they don't send it at those opportunities, they may end up finding themselves with less points than they would have hoped.
Well, what did we see happen at the last doubleheader that we did at Kyoto and Tokyo? Full points on offer, like you say, shorter races. The action's a bit more condensed. They raced like like their championship depended on it, and in this case, the final round, it actually does. So, 1 times tyre wear. I don't think we're going to see too much tyre dramas, and there's not really too many corners that I would call a tyre killer. I don't know if you agree, but the fuel situation. Again, I think the biggest issue we're going to see is people trying to qualify. Oh, that's another point too. Caleb is, I believe, not allowed to qualify, or he's starting from the back of the grid for this one due to issues from the last round.
Ah, that is big news indeed. Okay, so essentially a qualifying ban of some sort for Caleb, and starting at the back of the grid. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's just for this one. Obviously,
just for the first race.
The next race, the starting order goes off the race results. So he might, if he's going to do a last to first, now's the time to do it. But yeah, that's a good little nugget to sort of remember. And obviously, he's one of the contenders. We know he can do really well. Well, let's see if he can do the same with starting at the back.
Absolutely. Outright pace today going to be absolutely key. Overtaking opportunities need to be taken when they present themselves. Caleb in his element today, but he's in 6th overall, not safe to get into the live finals on the 10th, so needs to have a couple of good races starting from the back. Going to be very tricky. Nathan, I think we kick this off. Let's get qualifying started. Welcome in to everyone in chat. Stone Harbour in the chat saying he's figured out he can do 15 laps on the softs. Excellent. That's a good strategy in a 10-lap race. I approve of that. Very, very good stuff. Welcome into everyone on Twitch, YouTube. We are streaming on the NZ Sim Racing TV Twitch and YouTube, and the Respawn Esports Twitch and YouTube. So thank you to both the organizations for allowing us to do that. Qualifying begins now. First race of the evening, one of 2 races total. So 2 qualifying sessions will be out there for the drivers to put their name to. I think it's a key one here to maybe, starting at the first place, going to be very, very important. However, big slipstream up in that first area, so it's going to be key to think about where you qualify. Certainly you want to be running in the top 5 today.
Yeah, you're certainly right too. And again, with qualifying, and it's only a 10-minute session, so it's very quick fire. We've talked about it every round about finding your own little spot of real estate, but at a track like Watkins Glen, do you want to sort of mosey up to someone else and get that slipstream? And that's the issue that a lot of these guys will find, because on the one hand, you want to be close enough to benefit from that disturbed air, but you also don't want to catch up to the guy in front of you and then he ruins your lap time. So it's an interesting balance. Some of these guys will be able to set monstrous lap times without needing any help. But yeah, look, that's up to these guys to decide. They still have it. They have this outlap, obviously, to sort of work out if they want space or not. Caleb obviously sitting in the pits there, so he'll have a long 10 minutes. He's probably playing Flappy Birds on his phone or whatever he's up to, waiting for that. Just getting an idea of sort of the running order. So Airborne's out in front, so he's got sort of the clear air, but obviously McEwen's right behind him. He's not going to want to wait around, and well, he just sort of lets him by, doesn't he? Which, as you would. He's certainly not known for taking prisoners, even in qualifying. But yeah, 10 minutes, soft tyres. This is almost perfect qualifying conditions.
Exactly right. So McEwen will be the first to cross the line and start his first hot lap. Bishop was a little bit held up by, I think it was Crimson, so he's slightly down further in the pack, which he's probably not going to be super happy about. Might have to make a few overtakes on this hot lap. What can McEwen do today? It's going to be another one that he'll like to have taken. I think he's kind of keen for 4 interviews today. If I'm thinking right, I think Matthew McEwen is thinking 4 interviews today. I'm quite happy to answer, 12 questions, no worries. He's probably going to claim he's done no practice as well, which I think we know is probably not true. But he's in a position to go home and take a really, really solid victory in the online season. Doesn't need to do anything spectacular today, but we shall see. We know the man likes to win, even if he doesn't have to. Airborne in second place, technically speaking, and then he's got Lewis in behind him. Now, Lewis, he is technically needs a pretty good result in both races. We've seen things just run away from him, but I think he's in his element here today. I think it's a similar thing with Caleb. They like short, sharp, fast races, and they can go for it. And Lewis can really show his speed today, I think.
Yeah, he kind of got dealt a rough hand last week at Suzuka, was it? Where he kind of got forced off before even the first sector. So he was just, and it wasn't his fault, wasn't really anyone's fault. It was just the, like you say, the bedlam and the chaos that comes with lap 1. And it was just unfortunate, really. So he's obviously going to want to avoid all of that, and a lot of that comes from qualifying well, doesn't it? I mean, if you're going to sit qualifying sort of mid-pack and lower, you know you're going to deal with a few of the issues and everyone being real bunched up. But if you're high up enough the order, then you can just kind of drive away. How many times have we seen McEwen qualify and pole and then just drive away, and second and third are left squabbling?
Yeah, exactly, and that'll be what McEwen wants to do today as well. Might not be quite as easy as some of the other tracks we've had, of course, but because of that first straight, going to have a little bit of extra slipstream, reasonably long back straight as well, tricky sector 1 and 2 essentially, so it might make it a little harder to drive away today. We're about to see the first cars come across the line. What will Matt McEwen set as the benchmark today? Goes through that awful pit entry line there, very wide on exit, might have been just a little bit too wide. Does look like he's gotten away with it, so no issue there across the line, and it's a 152.7 to kick things off, and that is a very good time. 6/10 back. Airborne goes up into P2. Lewis may have picked up a penalty that lap because he didn't end up setting a time. Crimson comes into 3rd place, followed by Monkey Matt. So Monkey Matt making a good start, good banker for most of those out on track. Simon Bishop goes to P2. 3/10 is the gap, essentially a quarter of a second to P2, and that has closed the gap up to Matt McEwen quite significantly. Good run from most. Airborne, great lap from him, and that is a car spun round. Not quite sure who that was. Maybe you can find it on your side of things, but there was definitely a car spun round at turn 1.
Yeah, that was Ted. He tried doing what the fans of Watkins Glen would probably call it the NASCAR line. If you know Watkins Glen, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, well, Google it, because it's a very interesting interpretation of the track limits, but at the end of the day, there's no grip out there in Gran Turismo, and I wish we had NASCARs in Gran Turismo. How fun would that be? But
that'd be great, especially at Watkins Glen.
Oh, especially at Watkins Glen, and he even gets the chicane wrong a second time, and just about took out, who was that? Was that Sly Ben? No, who was that? Stoney Malone. So again, we're starting to see some of these guys, in fact, several guys have got penalties at the moment. So again, we talked about that chicane. I'm sure there are some other corners, probably even turns 1 and 2 are probably at risk of getting pinged. I know that used to be a headache for a lot of people in the World Series when Watkins Glen first came to Gran Turismo. But yeah, I mean, you just got to be in the lines, don't you? It sounds so simple, but when you're out there doing the business, it can be quite the mission.
Yep, that's exactly it. It's a tricky course to get right. It's actually more technical than most people would assume. There's a lot of precision involved in these laps. We've got a few filing into the pits. Matt McEwen Gareth at Stive Cable jumping into the pits as well. Fresh tyres for them. They'll obviously continue running the same amount of fuel to keep the car light. Lewis Atkinson also jumping into the pits. So that's P8 at the moment for Big Head Ted, who's had an awful run so far. A couple of cars going very, very wide up through turn 10. Tricky exit, that one. You want to use all the track you possibly can, but it's not always available. Suddenly you're running out of track, and suddenly you're in a barrier. That's a very wide line for Big Head Ted, not optimal through the final turn down the main straight. We do go. Matt McKeown is now out. Simon Bishop comes into the pits, and Caleb is going to be sitting in the pits continuously, somehow still in P6. I don't know what Gran Turismo is doing here, but he's somehow in P6 after not having set a lap. Scotty Ray is currently in P10, that's what we saw following Big Head Ted. Slyben the Cat, maybe biding his time a little bit too much, hasn't set a good banker so far. 154 on lap 2 as his first hot lap. Second lap was invalid at 157. He might have been one of those with a penalty.
Yeah, no, he definitely was, and I mean, we're seeing even now some of these guys are getting penalties. I can only assume for the pit lines, which again we alluded to the fact that it is a bit of a prick to get these pit lines right, and Gran Turismo is very merciless. If you're even a little bit over, it slaps you with that penalty regardless of the circumstances. If I was Monkey Matt, I'd be a bit sort of comforted at the moment. You mentioned he needs top 5 to sort of revive his qualification hopes. Well, he's sitting in 5th at the moment, and there is nothing in it between him and Crimson. So potentially, if he can piece together one more real balls to the wall lap, he could potentially, probably, might even be able to get airborne, because the gaps are just not that much. So he's, I'd be taking a bit of encouragement and sort of hoping that one lap is magic. But again, we all know how hard it can be to do a perfect uninterrupted lap under pressure, especially final round of the series, of the qualifiers.
Exactly, yeah. Less than a second separating the top 5 at the moment. Very, very small margins for Monkey Matt to get up to P4. He's on an out lap right now, so he will have fresh tyres for these last couple of runs. Don't think he'll get 2 laps in, though, so this will be his last lap. Airborne is filed into the pits, sitting in P3 at the moment. I don't think he's going to have time to get a change of tyres and then come back out and run a lap, because it takes about a minute and 50 seconds to get around here, so he's out of time already, so that'll be airborne. He is coming out of the pits, but it might just be too late. He might just sneak in a lap at the end. It's going to be very close. We will have to keep an eye, but Crimson at the moment ahead of him by just under, behind him by just under 0.2 of a second. Monkey Matt's going to be a key finish here. Penalty, though, for Crimson. So it's all over for GD Crimson. That penalty is going to cost him the ability to do another hot lap. So now our eyes will turn to the likes of Lewis and Stone Harbour. Can they do enough?
Lewis got turn 1 wrong as well, so he's been slapped with a penalty. Man, a lot of these guys making just the most simple of mistakes, but that will be frustrating.
The NASCAR line, the NASCAR penalty now, essentially, isn't it?
Well, I wonder what turn 1's going to be like under race conditions. And of course, the stewards are in the building with us, so they're not going to be able to. They can't go too stock car on us. But by the same token, it's it seems to be catching out a lot more guys than I perhaps thought it was going to. And somehow, Caleb's still 6th.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Gran Turismo service here, so we might just keep that in mind as we head to our results. We'll make sure that that's, of course, appropriately sorted out. McEwen still leads by by a quarter of a second at the moment. Simon Bishop in P2 in his new Mobile 1 livery. Beautiful livery work there by him. I think he's not the only one on the grid who's got a new livery. We'll keep an eye out there. Airborne still holding on to P3, but I don't think he's going to make it. We've got 20 seconds left. He might just do it. I think he might come across the line. We're going to keep an eye on this.
15 seconds.
I think he might have it here. Let's just keep an eye. Goes through the last corner, hits the apex nicely. He's pushing as hard as he can. 5, I think it's going to be really close. 3, 2, 1. He's across the line. He's done it. It's on the final lap. That is time to perfection. He was on the line at 10.00000.
And it's going to be all for nothing if he decides to get a penalty on that turn 1 there. He was a bit greedy with the curb, so we're going to wait to see what happens there.
Oh, and big news, Sly Ben the Cat. That's Ben Groves up to P3. Puts himself right up there next to Simon Bishop on his final lap. That's excellent. Monkey Matt elevated himself up to P4, immediately bumped down by Ben Groves to P5. Airborne He is the last person. He's going through bus stop chicane here. There's a couple of cars just ahead of him. Where is Gareth Collier? He is finished. So that is P6 for Gareth, currently third in the championship overall. Crimson in P7. He's all done as well. Lewis is done. He has stopped that on track. Doesn't even want to finish at this point. He's had a bit of a shocker. P9, not what we would have wanted for him and not what he wanted for himself. So it's Stone Harbour. And it looks like, who else is on there? I think
Stone Harbour, McEwen, and Airborne. They're all actually within range of each other. Airborne will be chasing McEwen, but then if McEwen and Airborne both catch Stone Harbour, then that might cause some problems. At the moment, Airborne's 7/100ths up, so he's still down to Sly Ben, but we do still have the last sector to come, which is probably one of the more technical. It's probably the real tricky part of Watkins Glen, isn't it, of the circuit? The run sort of down to the boot is actually pretty tame in comparison. I don't want to call it easy because obviously that chicane exists, but 2/10ths up now, so he does stand to gain, and he might start on the podium. We're going to find out in about 20-odd seconds.
Matt McEwen, of course, has secured P1 at this stage. Everyone else around him has finished, unless Airborne can take it away from him. Let's see what Airborne's going to do across the line. Still a 52.7 to beat. Is it an improvement? It is! That's fantastic work by Airborne. Takes the P3 slot away from the young man in Ben Groves and forces his way up into the P3 with a brilliant lap. 2/10ths clear of Ben Groves as well. That is a 1:53.0. Very nice work from Airborne. Fantastic qualifying. Incredibly close stuff. Lots of disasters, though. Lots of penalties, as we've alluded to. And that is going to make things tricky in the race for a lot of people. At the moment, I think we're just waiting for Lewis Atkinson, because he's still there. He's still hanging out at turn 2.
He's just taking in the scenery, to be fair. Of course, Gran Turismo does do a good job making the tracks look pretty authentic. He's just, admiring that barrier.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. All right, let's take a look at our results for qualifying. Absolutely top stuff from Matt McEwen, as expected, a 52.766, the benchmark today. His closest competitor, Simon Bishop, not quite able to make it up to that 0.7 second area, but a 52.992, only 2 drivers in the 52s at Watkins Glen today. And then Airborne, what a lap by Airborne. That was absolutely brilliant. He came across the line to start his last hot lap at 10.000000. Absolutely on the money to get that last lap in. Stunning work by him. Puts Ben Groves down into P4, then Monkey Matt in P5, P6 to Dive Cable, Crimson in P7, Caleb in P8, not the lap he would have wanted to get because he didn't set a lap, and that's the key thing. But for some reason, it is still put in P8, so we will have to amend that in our lobby as we go forward. Then technically P8, it is Lewis Atkinson, Stone Harbour in P9, Big Ed Ted in P10, Clan Fever in P11, Scotty Ray in P12, and Angus GTR in P13. So those in the bottom 5, a little bit on the edge now. They're teetering on the edge. Monkey Matt got the result that he needed right up at the top. But it is now time for us to talk to our race winner. So we're going to jump over to Matt McEwen in a few moments' time. Let us know what you guys thought of that qualifying session. It was absolutely brilliant. And we're looking very much forward to, once again, speaking to Matt McEwen. Last season, we made a bit of a habit of this, or certainly he made a bit of a habit of this. Now we get to talk to him again. Matthew, hopefully you can hear us. Hopefully we can hear you. First of all, a big congratulations on the pole win there. So you've got P1 all secured by just over 2/10ths of a second as well. So a decent gap. But you've got 2 drivers who are very close to you there, Bishop and Airborne. How was that qualifying for you at Watkins Glen?
It was really interesting, actually. I kind of just went out and set a banker lap and then pushed as hard as I could on my other 2 laps and couldn't beat it. So here we are.
There we go. So the banker was critical.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I was really focusing on making sure that it just stayed within the lines, and well, apparently that was good enough. Yeah, I got Simon and Airborne right behind. Hopefully the slipstream doesn't end up being too insane, but I'm hoping for it just to be a nice, boring, stable race.
Excellent. Yeah, so the slipstream. So we keep coming back to this because when you qualify on pole, we keep saying, okay, is it the slipstream? Is that what's going to trip you up, maybe? Are you worried about the slipstream, or is it more the antics? Is it the turns and the potential overtakes into the bus stop? Are you worried about the cars catching up behind you? What are your thoughts for the race coming up? It's a very short race, So there's not a lot of time to build a gap.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think either of them are going to be going too crazy through the bus stop and killing anyone. But I mean, you never know. So, I'm a little bit worried about it. Obviously, it's not nearly as bad as Blue Moon Bay because Blue Moon Bay had a lot of like chud saving fuel, and that didn't work. This time, there's not really so much of that. Everyone's just going to be on the same pace.
Absolutely. All right, we'll pass it over to Nathan for a couple of questions, and then we'll jump into the race.
Yeah, the obviously becoming a bit of a common recurrence here. Are you sort of worried about turn one? Because we saw a lot of guys getting caught out in qualifying. So with 14 cars all barreling into turn one, is that going to cause a bit of havoc? You reckon?
It couldn't. T1's only going to cause just like more issues for the bus stop. I really don't think that anyone's going to die at T1. It's more so just a question of hopefully not getting kind of pushed down to second, third place, and then getting caught in a whatever happens at the bus stop, because something's going to happen. It's going to be pretty wild.
Georgie's already answered my second question because I was going to say about a shocking run to turn one. Is that then going to cause chaos at the bus stop? But no, he's beat me to it. Dang.
Yeah, no, I do not want to be anywhere but first place coming into the bus stop, and anyone else who ends up like that, yeah, good luck to them, I guess.
Fair
Right.
enough. Well, like George said, short race, soft tyres. Hopefully we get to talk to you at the end of it all.
All right, sounds good.
No bias in this commentary box. Good luck, Matthew McKeown. Thank you very much for jumping into the interview box once again, and we shall see who we talk to in 10 laps time. And yeah, Nathan, there's a few key people out there that need a good result today. We're talking about Monkey Matt a lot. Crimson up in a good position. Dive Cable up in P4, I believe. No, not P4, where he was P6, I believe it was. We're just reordering the grid as it is right now.
Yep.
But yeah, a really, really, really tricky thing to do for a lot of drivers today. Matt McKeown kind of alluded to it in a lot of ways. It's going to be maybe just a little bit cutthroat, and I'm not surprised if it is, because 10 laps, this is short. This is going to be hard, fast racing. This is the kind of stuff that makes or breaks your ability to qualify for the live finals.
Certainly right. And I mean, look at how many people. I mean, I don't think we've seen Airborne qualify on a podium spot so far this season, have we? I think this is his personal best quali result. So that sets him up for a phenomenal race. Ben's also up there, which obviously he's been in the wars a bit. We know him and Lewis have a bit of a grudge match kind of thing. But yeah, it's just this is it's like you say, all eyes are kind of on Monkey Matt because he's been missing for so long that now he's back in action.
Exactly right. And yeah, absolutely right there. Airborne has not qualified in the top 3 at all. His best qualifying so far has been P5. Sorry, that's not true. That is P6, his best qualifying so far. And that race was the first race of round 3. And unfortunately, slipped down to P11. He's 8th overall in the championship. So he is one of those who is not safe today. So that's a massive, massive win for Airborne to qualify right at the start. We know that when things, people are not going to be wanting to ruin their chances of a good result today because it becomes so critical now. So I get the feeling that Airborne's going to actually end up feeling quite comfortable. Likely that Bishop and McKeown will kind of make a bit of distance, but if he can give us some of that quali pace that he obviously had today in the race, essentially what is a race that is essentially qualifying conditions. It's a sprint race. It's only 10 laps long. It's on the racing soft, so it's identical conditions. You'll be running, reasonably low on fuel by midway point and pretty empty by the end. So I think Airborne's got all the chance. If he can get that big bag of points, he puts himself from 8th way up the table, and that second race can be a lot less stressful for him, because right now with Monkey Matt coming up and a few others getting good results, he's not safe.
He's not. No one's safe. There's only a handful of guys who we can really truly say are safe, but everyone else, they've still got it all to do. And like you say, even if we're not worried about qualifying for Wellington necessarily, there are still those series points, which those could well turn the tide at the end of the Wellington event. So, look, I think all that's really left to do is to just let them loose, and we'll see what happens, right? Let's do it.
Couldn't agree more. Let's get this race started. So this is the first race of 2 tonight. We've just had our qualifying for race 1 at Watkins Glen. It's time to go for a 10-lap sprint through the American location. A beautiful track, only 10 turns at this stunning location. It's going to be a fantastic race, and we are very much looking forward to getting this started. So let's jump out on track and get things going. So the beginning of this race. 5 lights, of course, is what we are waiting for. Matthew McEwen will lead us away into turn 1. Will Bishop be able to get a good start to this race? We're at 3 lights. 4 lights are on. 5 lights are on now. The false start, of course, being penalised, and the lights are out. Green flag is waved. Good launch by Matthew McEwen at the beginning. Bishop is up his inside line, though, at the minute. This could be a good opportunity for Bishop to take an early lead in this race, and he's done it very nicely. Pulls into P1, and Simon Bishop, the race leader after 1 corner, however, he is going to be now pulling along the entire field behind them. Slybend the Cat had a much better start than Airborne. He's fallen down 2 positions already. Make that 1 position already. Monkey Matt briefly up into the top 5. But top 4, I should say. Now Airborne retakes that position. A big scrap going on behind Monkey Matt. Crimson, they're going 3 wide through the bus stop chicane. That's going to be absolutely crazy racing there. They've managed to do it somehow. I was holding my breath. One person has run off the line at the outer loop there. That is very intense. We knew it was going to be a bit of a rough start through the bus stop chicane. Somehow, nearly everyone has gotten through okay. That is Clam Fever, however, has had a shocker of a start and finds himself in 14th place. Simon Bishop survives the slipstream on lap 1. Matthew McEwen, though, does not want to let him run away with things, and Slybend the Cat is in the tow. That means he's going to have a chance to maybe take the challenge to McEwen and Bishop. Airborne holding on to P4 still. No attack by Monkey Matt on these first few corners as we head now towards Sector 3. What a start. 3 wide into the bus stop chicane. That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and I don't think you'd see that if that was a feature race. These guys do not want to waste any time. They don't want to waste any mileage. Caleb's not wasting any time. He's already pretty much chopped half the pack, and he's sitting in 8th at the moment. So an absolute rocket ship start from the young Kiwi. And I mean, again, it's just, this is 1 lap. We've still got 9 to go. So a lot of these guys definitely not waiting around to sort of make their move. So the big winners and losers, Simon obviously taking that lead just straight away. McEwen and Slybend are, they're all pretty comfortable safe. Of course I say that, and now McEwen's just gone and stolen the lead off of Simon, so they'll continue to argue, no doubt. Clam Fever obviously with that hard luck story. Dive Cable got quite out of shape after the bus stop, but he's managed to recover it back, and now he's putting the pressure on Stoney and Ted, who in turn want to catch up to Caleb. Lewis sort of sitting in the middle pack there, and you got something else going on now between the top?
Oh, we certainly do. Wow, the top 3 absolutely going for it now, Nathan. It's absolutely nuts. I love this kind of racing because it's so tactical. Big inside line there. Defensive line from Matt McEwen. Compromised himself massively into the bus stop chicane. Bishop tried to swing to the outside, couldn't make it happen. And both of these two fighting now. They've obviously got great pace between them. Ben Groves, right there, could be in this action super soon. And Airborne is keeping up with the top 3. Absolutely brilliant driver from Airborne. He's actually dropping Monkey Matt and Lewis Atkinson right now. This is what Airborne needs to secure his spot in the live finals at the end of this round's racing. Great stuff. That's purple sector by Simon Bishop, still going at it. Doesn't want to let Matthew McEwen run away with things. And I'm sure Ben Groves pretty happy to be up in P3 right now.
Absolutely, and I mean, again, he's one of those ones who's had a bit of a mixed bag as far as good results and bad results. He's kind of hasn't quite had it his own way, so he's definitely going to want to hold on to a podium spot. Lewis just served a 1-second penalty, so he's dropped down, but Caleb now with a half-a-second penalty. So again, it's just so important to try and keep your wheels on the right side of the track, and I mean, that's going to be costly. I mean, he's in 7th, so he's certainly leaps and bounds from where he was. But again, we've talked in the past about how 1 penalty can sort of get you worked up, and then you make 1 more mistake, and then you make another mistake, and by the time you add up all that pace that you've lost, all that momentum, you're left with a what could have been. But hopefully for Caleb, it's just a half-a-second penalty. He's already pulled in tremendous ground, and it doesn't look like he's going to stop anytime soon.
Oh, and up the inside into turn 2 and 3 goes Airborne. Nice overtake on the young man. Ben Groves falling to P4. We'll have the slipstream down the main back straight as we head towards the bus stop chicane. Once again, the distance between P1 and P2 more or less the same at the moment. Airborne's going to have to try and hold on. Ben Groves not looking to make any urgent overtakes at this point. Quite happy to run in the slipstream and let those up ahead fight, but he may want to think about getting past Airborne again in short order, in case there is a little bit of a gap separation which is starting to occur in the top 4. Monkey Matt leads us away in P5. Let's look down the rest of the grid. Crimson currently in P6. This is the result that he's going to need for this race, but he's got Caleb Birtles right behind him in P7, who has a 0.5 second penalty. That'll be served as they head up the hill through the toe and onto the boot back straight. P8 currently in Stone Harbour, and he might be able to take advantage of Caleb's penalty, see if he can get back in the action and maybe put the pressure on the P6 place man right now, who is Crimson, then Lewis, 7 at 1 second penalty. P9 for the Hooncorp driver. Then it's Gareth Collier in P10. Dive cable, not the start of this race he wanted. He's not too far away from those ahead, but needs to make some more progress. Big at 10. P11, Scotty Ray in P12. Angus GTR in P13, and of course, the Clam Fever still making his way back up to the rear of the grid, currently in P14. Some fantastic places right now for those on the grid. Airborne being the big one up in P3. Crikey, Caleb, as you said before, Nathan, Caleb, what progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I've actually just been noticing too, we talked about the sprint race and the whole tyre wear not quite playing a factor. Some of these guys have got markedly worse tyres than the others. So again, it's kind of shows how a bit of smoothness and a bit of, I mean, of course we saw it at Kyoto, didn't we, where it was Caleb and Sidog, and Caleb had just torn up his tyres, and by the end of it he had no answer to Simon, had no road holding ability. I don't quite think it's going to be as extreme, but certainly adds up towards the late. You know, we're not even halfway through, and some of these guys, the differences in tyre grip and tyre wear are remarkable for a one-time tyre wear race.
We were talking a little bit, weren't we, about whether tyre life is going to play a factor here. One times tyre, you'd assume not so much, but the racing softs. Honestly, the sections that need to be worried about, outer loop, we've just gone through it. Now down the chute, toe, the boot, and the heel. That whole last sector, right up until the final corner, is a tyre killer. The camber is on, then off. It's up, then downhill. The braking zone's key. If you get it wrong, what are you going to lean on? You're going to lean on the tyres. So it's key to be smooth through that last sector. Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of people may be suffering from that. Just saw Monkey Matt go purple in the purple car in Sector 1, making some progress on Sly Ben the Cat. I don't know what's happening with Ben Groves right now. He may have pushed a little too hard, a little too early. And Monkey Matt's going to have an opportunity. Up the hill we go, through into turn 9. He's going to try around the outside, no luck there. Does a switch back, will get good drive off of turn 9 through into turn 10. Such a tricky corner this, I absolutely love it though. Turn 10, sweep to the left-hand side, dab at the brakes, get it turned in, get the nose in there, and get back on the power as soon as possible as you head flying through the penalty, the pit entry line and back onto the main straight. Beautiful part of the track.
I think Ben might have just clouted the wall there, because he's certainly lost a fair bit of momentum and he's given Monkey Matt a free kick. Like you say, that is a thrilling part of the racetrack to get right, isn't it? When you do get it right and when you're in control, it's certainly it flows really well. It's nice and you feel like you've accomplished something. But when you're struggling for grip and it's a bit frantic, it can be a bit less fun, can't it? But
that's absolutely right.
Yes.
Oh, we've had drama at the top. Sorry to interrupt, Nathan.
Ooh.
Airborne is now in front of Simon Bishop.
And Simon with a half-a-second penalty. So I wonder what's gone on there. I don't know if you're able to get a replay at all there, George, but that doesn't happen, especially for what Sidog himself said was one of his favourite tracks in this lineup. So that's
right.
That's definitely an interesting situation. Phenomenal for Airborne. Airborne's just absolutely, given the performances previously through the season, for him to be fighting for second, it's sort of like, well, where was this pace earlier in the season? But yeah, Simon with that half a second, he's not going to be able to answer to Airborne. So Airborne's been gifted some breathing room, essentially. Wow, what a development.
Yeah, huge development there. Of course, Bishop will serve the penalty line, which is coming up right now on lap 5 as well. It's only halfway through this race. Does give him an opportunity to make it back. Let's see if we can pull up this replay and see if we can catch this. No, unfortunately, I've done it too late. So that means we do not have the replay at our fingertips. We shall have to guess what's happened there, but I'm guessing track limit by the looks of things, and certainly that's given Airborne and Matthew McEwen the breathing room they want in the second half of this race. Excellent stuff for Airborne. He's going to be stoked. And Simon Bishop, well, the opportunity. We really thought this was going to be his race, this track this time, but unfortunately that's just not going to be the case this time round, unless he can pull out some really good laps through the end of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're only just ticking past the halfway point. In fact, McEwen's just started the 6th lap, that's halfway. So we've had all this action, all this drama, all this moving and shaking, and Yeah, we've still got twice the race distance left to go. Caleb at the moment, 7th place. I mean, with that sort of rate of positions gained versus laps, he stands to win this race. Whether or not he does, different story, but certainly can't deny he knows how to cut through a pack at a moment's notice.
Exactly right. So Caleb's still on P7. He's done really, really well. We can just see him in the rear of this shot as Monkey Mac tries to go defensive against Ben Groves. Crimson is now going to be the bottleneck that'll hold Caleb up for now. Stone Harbour, though, right on the rear wing of Caleb. And that's going to be interesting. Stone Harbour also one that needs a good result today. And especially in race 1, where I think we're going to have the slightly easier conditions. We'll talk about that as we head through our intermission. Dragon Trail Gardens, not an easy circuit. I think people prefer, or at least I prefer, Watkins Glen to Dragon Trail Gardens, but we'll talk about that more in the intermission. At the moment, very nice little move here. Sly Ben is going to try and defend against Crimson. Crimson is all over Sly Ben's rear. So Monkey Matt has absolutely left Sly Ben in the dust, and now Ben is under a lot of pressure, and that was Crimson with a penalty serving there.
That was a half a second penalty. I wasn't sure if you'd seen that one crop up, but again, just little mistakes, just going slightly too wide over or slightly, getting it wrong, and that's the penalty, that's the cost, and it's catching out. It's catching out some of the pros. It's catching out some of the. Well, they're all pros, but you get what I'm saying. It's catching everyone out across the grid. It's not just one guy who made one mistake, but certainly it's, yeah. And again, there's still plenty of mileage left. Someone could get a particularly big penalty or get it particularly wrong, and then the entire narrative of the race is flipped on its head, isn't it?
Exactly right, yeah. So Stone Harbour now applying pressure to Ben Groves. I think Ben Groves is maybe in a bit of trouble. Somehow, something has gone wrong. He's just lost all the pace he had early in the race, where he's holding on a P3 beautifully. He got a great start, elevated himself immediately up ahead of Airborne, but now finds himself down in P6. And yeah, Stone Harbour's gone and done it on the inside line into turn 1. Beautiful move there into essentially what's called the 90. I love this. This is my favorite corner name in all of motorsport, the 90. It's literally 90 degrees. Beautiful stuff. Fly Ben
Exactly
the cat.
what it says on the tin.
It's one on the tin. It's very self-explanatory. I guess you could argue that for the Japanese circuits as well, but people don't quite understand as much. Oh, that's on the grass there.
Ben's managed to butcher his tyres, so that's why he, again, we used the story about Caleb and Sidog at Kyoto. He's now got that very issue where he just does not have the same road holding ability, and you're seeing it now. Almost actually the identical cars too. Caleb and Ben both in matching colours, matching regions of the country, and Caleb's just got so much better grip, so much better traction out of that corner than Ben. And now Crimson's going to capitalise because same thing. I don't know how he's done it, but he's managed to absolutely butcher those racing soft tyres in the span of about 7 laps. So definitely a bit of a head scratcher there, and yeah, what a shame.
Yep, a little bit unfortunate there for Ben Groves, and what was looking like a great potential result is slowly slipping away from him. Crimson, that was a beautiful overtake on the outside of the toe. If you're going to overtake there on the outside, you've got to be very brave and confident in your grip level. And I think he's been keeping an eye on what Ben Groves has been doing up ahead, and I think he might have just realized that Ben Groves' car has absolutely no grip, so there'd be no way for him to challenge. A little bit of a wide run there from Caleb, but now up into P6 from dead last on the grid at the beginning of the race, up into P6. Very, very good effort by Caleb Birtle. Stone Harbour is the next person in his target sight, unless Crimson can have a go into turn 1. No, thinks about it, pulls back out of the move, doesn't want to get involved in that into turn 1, focusing on the slipstream afterwards and a good run, not jumping over the curb too much, because you're going to find yourself with a 0.5 second penalty if you do that. Monkey Matt is slowing down a little bit as well, or Stone Harbour is just going faster. Stone Harbour having a brilliant race right now. Him and Airborne, those two absolutely pushing the boundaries. This will be the best result for either of them if they finished right now. Stone Harbour just gone purple in Sector 1, so great run through the first sector of this course, through turn 1, 2, 3, and up the back straight. Brilliant stuff, but that was very, very deep and wide through the beginning of the bus stop chicane, and that is a penalty.
That was a penalty. That was, yeah, as soon as he mentioned he got a purple, I think he might have surprised himself as well, because, sometimes you see the purple and you go, wait, really? Because, again, sometimes you don't realise what you've done differently, and then the timing sheet says, hey, you've gone purple. So, hey, look, that's just a theory, but the fact that he went purple and then immediately made a mistake, I think it might have sort of caught him by surprise. But yeah, 1 second penalty, that's I think he's going to gift Caleb a
Yeah.
top 5 now.
I think he is, yeah. Caleb will go on past. Crimson might be able to do it around the outside. Still got plenty of grip to deal with there. Does it beautifully.
Yeah.
Yep, does it beautifully. Now, I think Stone Harbour could have been caught out by the fact that he was in the big slipstream from Monkey Matt. Might have had a little bit of extra speed going into the bus stop chicane. Definitely looked like he turned in a little bit too late. So whatever it was, it's cost him a whole bunch of time. And he'll have to make that up somehow by getting past quite the squabble. Because Crimson and Caleb are having a rather intense, heated discussion right now for the P5 position. Caleb ahead, of course. Crimson in P6. And just quickly running through our top 4, it's McEwen, Airborne, Bishop, and Monkey Matt. An attempt to go down the inside line for Crimson. Caleb holds that off beautifully. It's a switcheroo. Tries it, breaks deep, does get out of it, slams on the brakes. Caleb forced to run very, very deep. That's going to be a great run from Crimson now. He's going to have, nearly had an overlap, but he'll have a slipstream like no other. So will Stone Harbour. It's brought him right back into the conversation. Blue and yellow, white and green, and then red and black all in a row here. This is going to be quite the fight. Will Caleb choose the inside line? Does so. Crimson going to have the overspeed and the side draft. Will it be enough, though? Outside line, bus stop chicane, braking zone. We've seen things go very wrong here. Does decide to back out of it. That's the sensible thing to do. What a battle.
Oh, certainly, right. And again, the finishing order for this race determines the starting order for the next race. So even though Caleb's not necessarily winning this one, if he can just finish respectably enough, he'll be in a perfect position to... I mean, he managed to gain the better part of 9 spots in this race. So starting 5th, he will be in a much better position to perhaps go on another charge. So it's, he might not necessarily be racing for the win, but he just... and Crimson just gave him a nice big tap on the bum and... definitely threw him out of shape there. It's actually, he managed to keep it, managed to not go around, and he's definitely going to return serve to Crimson as we head into what is essentially a more than 90 right-hander, isn't it? The heel. I think I know most of my Watkins Glen's corner names.
Yep,
but
that is indeed the heel.
Yep,
Yeah, it's inside line.
Mike
Caleb's going to try it.
no.
Oh, wow. That is elbows out racing right now. McConnell is pushed wide, similar to what happened when Crimson got past him. Stone Harbour going to have a try down the inside now, but this is into turn 10. That's scary side by side. If you run too wide, it will be a penalty. Everyone keeps within the lines. That's actually put Crimson back on the inside line for the last corner. Caleb's going to try and switch a route down to the inside. We're now on the last lap of racing. McEwen from Airborne, from Bishop, from Monkey Matt, and this battle has been epic.
Here comes Stoney. He's going to be on the inside for turn 1, so he is absolutely going to lunge it, which of course he does. I would, you would. And, dude, what are they going to do? Because if Caleb complains to the stewards that Crimson hit him, and then Crimson says, yeah, but you did the same thing to me. So, look, we'll leave that one to the stewards, but the fact is that Caleb's just lost 2 spots with 1 lap to go.
Exactly right. Let's go on board now and see what Caleb is seeing at the moment. He's got a red car in front of him and a green car in front of him. That's a stop and go light. Looks like Crimson has gone defensive. Stone Harbour's going to try a little bit. No, brakes at the normal spot. It's going to get a little bit out of shape. Very out of shape for Stone Harbour as he goes through the second part of the bus stop chicane. Parks it right on the apex. Controls the drift with counter steering beautifully. Caleb can't get around him. And Caleb looks like he's just going back to his normal smooth driving, but this is the last opportunity. Regardless, starting from P7, you've moved up half the grid. You're starting halfway through the grid now for the next race. It's still a very, very good situation for Caleb. Last couple of corners now being navigated by our leaders. We'll jump to them in a few moments' time. Stone Harbour not close enough to launch a move as they head up the hill and through the boot on this final lap. That has been absolutely epic, and it's been going on for 3 laps, Nathan. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's definitely entertaining watching them go toe-to-toe. Hope you guys are watching it, enjoying it at home as well. This is some quality racing. This is better than the FIA races. This is better than the World Series. I mean,
I agree with that.
Why bother watching those when you can watch this instead? This is just absolutely cracking racing. But we're going to catch McEwen. He's going to take the win pretty convincingly. Matthew McEwen, everybody, race 1 winner, and looks like second is going to be Airborne. So that's probably the surprise of the feature of the sprint. Sorry.
Very much so. McEwen takes home the victory. 2 seconds to gap back to Airborne. Then Simon Bishop takes 3rd place. Monkey Matt, that is the race position he needed to be in at a minimum. P4. What a way to return after 2 DNSs in the last couple of rounds, missing his favourite racing, of course, at Blue Moon Bay as well. GD Crimson in P5. We'll look at the rest of the grid, but at the moment, focus on this man right here. Twice again in the interview box in 1 round. And he's going to try and make that 4 today, I think. But McEwen, not as convincingly as he's done other races, only 2 seconds. And I think that just shows how well Airborne has raced today. It's been absolutely fantastic from that man. So we shall see exactly what the order is for our next race. McEwen, of course, will line up on pole. Fastest lap as well with a 53 flat. Airborne in P2, followed by Simon Bishop in P3. Good results from all of them. Airborne, the standout in that race at the moment. Monkey Matt, of course, in P4, followed by Crimson in P5, Stone Harbour in P6, and Caleb in P7. Those three in a epic battle for the last few laps of this race. Then Big Head Ted holds on to P8. Sly Ben, with those tyres that just got worse and worse and worse, falls to P9 after being in the top 3 at the beginning of the race, followed by Dive Cable. And Gareth has had a race to forget. P10, it'll have to make a lot of work happen as he comes back to get a good result. Still in P3 overall in the championship. That will, of course, change. We're going to have live points updates as well at the end of this race. We've got a poll to put on, so bear with us as we get through all of the things that we need to before we start race 2. Then, of course, Angus GTR in P11. Lewis Atkinson had a bit of an unfortunate one in P12. P13 to Scotty Ray, also unfortunate there. And Clam Fever with the early accident. We're not quite sure who was involved, but that was P14 for him. So certainly not ideal for those chaps. But we do have another round of racing, so it's not all over just yet. We'll keep an eye on the total points as we head towards our interview. And just before we get into the interview, we will quickly talk about Driver of the Day. We're going to have a poll that we're going to put up. So let's see, Nathan, what are we thinking in terms of Driver of the Day today for race 1? I think there were some good contenders. Let's see if you've, give us some names.
Definitely have to say Airborne. I mean, second place. Who saw that coming? Was that on your bingo card, George?
It was not.
Monkey Matt, top 5 after, obviously, like you say, missing the last 2 races. That's definitely a worthy inclusion. And then, I mean, it has to be said, Caleb just cutting through half the grid within those first couple of laps. So it's
exactly right.
You know, those are probably 3 I'd chuck on the list. I'm not sure if you agree, if you've got any.
I agree with those 3 100%. I think we've got to chuck Stone Harbour in there and Crimson for the battles that they were having, because those were epic.
Yep. All right. I think we'll go with those ones for the here and the now. Let us know who gets that Driver of the Day award.
We certainly will. All right, poll has been started. This is on the Respawn Esports Center Twitch, so you can head to twitch.tv/Respawn Esports Center, and you can participate in the poll, which is going on right now. We'll keep an eye on that. In the meantime, let's talk to our race winner today. He's qualified on pole. He's finished on the podium position in P1. And I will get this screen set up in just a second. But congratulations, of course, to you, Matthew McEwen, for what was a brilliant bit of racing. Very intense bit of racing, especially in the first half of the race. How did that feel?
Yeah, pretty good, actually. It was quite interesting. Simon mentioned just after the race finished, tyre whisperers up the front. And yeah, I think that Airborne and I pretty much nailed that for tyres.
That's incredible, and Airborne did a really good job. We were not expecting to see him up there, but that qualifying from him was really good. He was only just under 2 seconds from you at the end, so not the least comfortable race delta that you finished with between P1 and P2. And unfortunately for Simon Bishop, he got a penalty or 2 along the way. That sort of led to him not being able to keep things going. And then, as you said, tyre management turned out to be a much bigger factor than I think everyone really thought today.
Yeah, I hadn't actually thought too much about it, but then someone said, "Hey, tires are actually kind of a big deal," and so I went and quickly just brought out the telemetry app so I could actually check it. And well, I'm glad I did, because I was able to manage the tires a bit more than I probably would have, and Airborne probably would have ended up ahead of me in that kind of situation.
Well, we did see Ben Groves. He was an unfortunate victim of that tyre life, and he just sunk through the field. Once you've got that difference between the tyres, it's a totally different ballgame. When you were fighting with Simon Bishop, was that tyre conservation running in the back of your mind? You knew that you had Ben Groves there, then suddenly Airborne's catching up. I assume that was starting to go through your head at that point until you started to build a gap.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking about it. I was just trying to keep a safe gap without being too silly. Obviously, going too slow will end up doing a Blue Moon Bay situation.
Yeah.
But just trying to keep him behind without doing anything too crazy. And then when it did finally start to spread out a bit, and everyone had to battle Simon to get past him, I felt a bit comfortable just kind of driving a stable race.
Too right. Cool. Let's have a couple of questions from Nathan, and then we'll let you go and get ready for race 2.
Yeah. Matt, how was those tires? Because I mean, soft tires, 1 times wear, and yet we saw some phenomenal rates of wear. So how was that for you?
Yeah, it was quite a lot. I really wasn't expecting it to be that much, especially on 1X. And so, it really did kind of go down quite quick. And so, by the end of the race, I was down to sort of 70% worn on the front left, trying to just push the right front because that thing wasn't struggling at all, but trying to be really careful on the front left until the last couple laps. And it seems like it just about worked out.
Awesome stuff. Yeah. Next one's Dragon Trail Gardens, which some people would say is that's not their favorite. Where do you sort of sit on the liking it or hating it?
I don't think I've ever had a competitive race here that wasn't absolutely bonkers. So I guess that's all you need to hear.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, yeah, we're not too far away from getting back underway, so we'll let you get back to it. But yeah, word is to expect rain.
Yes.
All
Yeah, I'm
right.
seeing.
We're seeing some different conditions out there at the moment. Well, I'm sure we'll see the expected rain at some point. Matthew, thank you very much for jumping into the winners interview powered by Next Level Racing. Good luck in the next race. We will see you there and maybe see you back for 3 out of 3. We shall see.
Yeah, hopefully.
Touche. Very good. Thank you very much, Matt McEwen. We've got the poll running right now. Current leader is Airborne, and I'm not surprised at that at all, Nathan, because Airborne put on such a great display of driving here. And turns out we were, commentators, we know nothing. Tire life was absolutely key all the way throughout this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we talk about it already with just how not harsh, how intense these sprint races can get because full points, a lot of leagues when they do the sprint races it's only like half points or sometimes even less I've seen before. But we've got one more race and again, full points on offer, anyone's game, so bring it on.
We will indeed. So we've got an update on points after that round. So we do thank you to Tom England in the background. He's crunching numbers for us. We said we could give it a try, crunching numbers on stream, but both me and Nathan were going, no, it's not going to work. We're not going to be able to figure this out. So thank you to Tom England for crunching some numbers. We have now the top 5 current point leaders are all now mathematically qualified for the live final. So that means there are only 5 spots left. That's P6 to P10 up for grabs to get yourself in the live finals. This is absolutely massive. We are going to take a short break in a moment's time. Let me try and figure out now who's automatically qualified. That, of course, is Matthew McEwen, Simon Bishop. And now I've got to do this without sorting the numbers. It looks like Gareth Collier, Big Head Ted, and Lewis Atkinson. Those 5 confirmed for the live finals. The top 5 positions are mathematically in the shot. So that should be it for them, but they still need a good result. Okay, still need to go and race hard. Anyway, look.
Like you say, they don't want to leave any points on the table, and they do have those qualification, those series points which lead into the live event. So, no time to rest on your achievement. Obviously, you've made it to Wellington. Sweet, awesome. Now the hard work begins.
Exactly right. Okay, thank you very much, everyone in chat. We're going to take a short break as we get ourselves ready for race 2. We'll be back very, very soon, so stay tuned. Go and grab yourself a cold drink, and we'll be back to continue the second and final race of this evening and of the online season before we head to the live finals on the 16th of November at the Respawn Esports Centre in Wellington to determine who our champion of Season 2 will be. We will see you all in a few moments' time. Okay, there we go. Oh. Hello and welcome back after a slightly shorter intermission than we would have liked, but we've got to get on with proceedings today. Race 2 for the final round of the online season coming up, and the top 5 with them locked in. It's really all about who's going to qualify in the lower half of those top 10. 14 drivers in Div 1, 10 competing for the chance to get into the live finals today. We're going to jump straight into the second set of slides. Let's talk about a few drivers before we get things going. First up, Matthew Smith. That's Monkey Matt from Christchurch, and what a race back he's had. 2 DNSs in a row, comes back, gets a P4, really good stuff, and he'll start in P4 for this race going ahead. So he has really locked himself in a chance to get enough points to bag a top 10 spot. Then Ben Groves, Sly Ben the Cat, came up from Division 2 after winning 3 races back-to-back, so into Div 1 on merit. There he is with Liam Lawson on the track from Queenstown, so he's in the home of motorsport in some ways. Some people would probably disagree with me, but there's certainly a lot of motorsport in Queenstown. Then we take a look at Olaf Fresh, a personal friend of Nathan Howe and his family. Done well in many, many rounds this season, but I have to admit, it was a round to forget in race 1. That means he's right at the back of the grid. He's got to do what Caleb did in the previous race and elevate himself up a bunch of positions early on at Dragon Trail Gardens. It's going to be absolutely key for him to do so. Speaking of Dragon Trail Gardens, this is where we're going. It's a fictional track. It's not the one with the death chicane. This is the other one. This is Gardens, so 4.35 kilometers, 17 corners, very technical track. Big braking zones down to turn 5, 14, 13. Got to get those absolutely right. You go under the hill and under the tunnel, I should say, in turn 12, 11, and 10. Tricky area. And then you head down the back straight. The main pit straight and into the left-hander in turn 1. There are no corner names here, so we're going to be making some up. So if you've got any suggestions in chat, do let us know. Turn 3, 4, uphill chicane, dangerous on the sausage curbs. Got to be really cautious there. Turn 5, the hairpin, heavy braking zone, and it's downhill as well. It's a tricky track, not one that I think a lot of people have driven, actually, and Matthew McEwen said himself, not one that he's driven competitively.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the more overlooked original tracks. Of course, we've been hyping up Gran Turismo's ability to make some pretty cool, original circuits that don't exist in real life. But this is probably one of those, I don't know, black sheep choices. It's certainly not very popular, but it comes with its own challenges and it comes with its own. I can't really think of many positives. It is a bit of a prick of a track, at least for me. It is. But yeah, it's. That's where we're concluding this online qualifier.
Exactly right. So this is the last race, and the strategy today, of course, you do only have the hard tyres available. So the graphic is slightly wrong. Hard tyres are the only available tyres here today. Times 8 on the tyre life here. Fuel times 3. Only 11 laps to do in this race, so a relatively short distance. And we do have some weather updates from Nathan. Nathan, tell us what's out on track, because it's not dry conditions purely.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a tricky one for the drivers to sort of work out because it's been raining. So the track is wet, but it's not raining presently. So it's kind of in that flux of a bit of dry, a bit of wet. Obviously the racing line itself is more sort of dry running, but then if you go a little bit wide, there is water at those edges and at those sort of less traversed lines. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting, tricky one, to be fair. And yeah, we're going to see real soon who can adapt with those ever-changing conditions.
Exactly right. So we've had a full sprint race in the dry at Watkins Glen. Now we've got mixed conditions here, which is sure to shake things up. It's going to be McEwen on pole, followed by Airborne, Simon Bishop, Monkey Matt, Crimson, your top 5. They're not actually the top 5 in the points overall. Those are another set of chaps. Gareth does look like he's solidified himself in the top 5, so guaranteed a place in the live finals, as is McEwen and Bishop. Lewis, and I think it was Big Head Ted, but we shall keep an eye on things as we go towards the end of this last round. I think, Nathan, it's time for us to kick things off and get into this race. Let's get this going, because the online season now comes to a close, and this is going to be it. It is very close on the line for a number of drivers. They're going to have to make some really, really good moves today at Dragon Trails Garden. Not an easy track, but one that we are really, really looking forward to going and racing at. So get strapped in, get ready. I hope you've got your drinks ready, because we're about to go racing here for the final time in the New Zealand Esports Racing Series in the online season before we head to the live finals in Wellington. Now we'll wait for the 5 lights, and that is a rather damp track, so this is going to be an interesting start. They've got a big left-hander to navigate. 5 lights are on. False grid start period now starting. There's the green flag, and we're away racing. It's Matt McEwen. He's had a shocker of a start by the time of it. No, that is not him. That's Airborne has had a shocker of a start. Simon Bishop will be elevating himself up early in this race. They're side by side already, Airborne and Simon Bishop. Crimson on the outside, trying his luck. He's gotten a bit loose though, and lost a couple of positions as a result, and the headlights are on. Totally different conditions for the drivers to adjust to as we head up through the chicane. Turns 3 and 4. Avoid the curbs as much as possible. Not an area you want to be going side by side on. That's Airborne getting a little bit airborne over the chicane's curb there. And Big Ed Ted has found his way up into P3 early on in this race. Airborne falls to P5 as Monkey Bat finds his way up to P4, holds that on from the start of the grid. Dive cable, that's Gareth Collier up into P5 already in the braking zone. He's trying to do it as we head through the hardest braking zone in the track. Turn 5, he's got it done, so that's Gareth Collier in P5. We've had a disaster on track. There's 2 cars there. What's happened, Nathan?
Drama at the back. So Sly Ben and Lewis started this race on hards, so they're on the slick tyres, and of course it's a very wet track, and they're just taking turns. Got it completely wrong. I didn't realise, well, I don't think anyone really sort of knew what the conditions were going to be like for the start of this race. So some guys have opted to start on the wet, some have opted to start on the slicks. But yeah, for Lewis and for Ben, it's just gone completely pear-shaped. So that is a massive shame. Lewis won't be too fussed because obviously he's already guaranteed a spot for Wellington. But for Ben, I mean, dude, that is just absolute crying shame. But yeah, I mean, the thing about these guys who started on the hards, they don't have to pit. Whereas everyone else, oh, and look at this, Caleb and Clan both doing a bit of synchronized spinning. But
wow.
what I was getting at is that these guys don't have to pit, whereas the guys that are on the wets, if the track dries out, they do have to pit. So again, a bit of strategy call and a bit of decision making, and it just hasn't worked for some of them, and for everyone else, it seems to have. So yeah, definitely a bit of a curveball thrown to some of these guys, and certainly not one that I saw coming. It's be a long live in
it's
that.
very, very intense racing at the beginning too. Have got it essentially all wrong with the hard tyres. Let's hope that the conditions swing back their way. In the midfield, that's sort of P1 down to P7 at the moment. Everyone seems to be having an okay time, but there's a group of 4 or 5 drivers, you said so just a moment ago as well, from sort of Angus GTR down, having a disaster of a time. That's Crimson trying to take a move on Gareth Collier. So these are the ones who are on the wet tyres. They're going to have all the grip, and it's working well for them. McEwen from Big Head Ted up into P2. Talk about switch-ups. We've had Airborne P2. Now we've got Big Head Ted up in P2, followed by Simon Bishop, followed by Monkey Matt, followed by Gareth Collier, and then Crimson battling his way back through the field as well. Let's take a look at those who've had a bit of a shocker. It's Scotty Ray down on P9, Clan Fever. Olaf Fresh has had another shocker. Absolute shame to see that, followed by Stone Harbour and Caleb. Caleb falling to P12. Then, of course, Lewis and Sly Ben the Cat, who are still going at it. This is an absolutely epic battle with zero grip at all, which is in some ways quite fascinating. But McEwen already building a gap out the front. Big Ed Ted coming under pressure again from Simon Bishop. What an unbelievable start. Some getting it wrong, some getting unlucky, and some absolutely nailing it. In comes Matthew McEwen at the beginning of this race. He's on the intermediate tyres. He's going to change to the slicks already.
Now this is an interesting call, and it looks like, yeah, Simon's followed him, and it doesn't look like anyone else has made that call. I've seen this happen before, where someone tries to jump on the slicks early, and then they get caught out on the pit exit, because that is very slippery. And these guys don't have traction control to sort of guarantee a bit of grip, so it's going to be really interesting to see how quickly he can get back onto that drier line. The track is drying out. It is definitely, within a few laps, I think we'll see the rest of the intermediate runners come in, but yeah, that's he had to be the pioneer, and that is a big call there from McEwen, so it'll be really interesting to see if it pays dividends.
That's right. McEwen and Bishop both deciding to come in. What we think is a little bit early, but we know that they've got the ability to get around there if they can find the dry line. That's going to be the real challenge at Dragon Trail Gardens, because there's a lot of curb to drive on. Those won't dry up for a long time, and then the little dips into some of the apexes when they're on camber, it does prove like that on the hard tyres, you're going to have a little bit of trouble in those areas if the water's pulled at all. Big Head Ted, for the first time in Season 2, leads a race, and I'm sure he's wondering what's gone on.
Yeah, well, you know, it certainly I'd take it if I was in that position where I'm leading the top division of the top esports series in the country. That doesn't happen to very many people. So if he, presuming he doesn't pit this lap, which he might well, then he will have led a lap in the big series. As we just watch Ben's having a few more dramas. Lewis is in the pits. I think he might have flagged this race just quietly. Lewis Atkinson. So that's a crying shame. Yeah, Ted's in, Monkey Matt's in, Crimson's in, Dive Cable, and I'm just trying to pick who else is on the intermediates. I think Angus and Airborne are the only two left on the inters. So
right. Well, this is absolutely bizarre, but totally fascinating at the same time. Airborne Angus are both on the intermediate tyres. They're continuing at the moment. We're on lap 4 of 11. McEwen back up into P3 on the hard tyres, thinking, yep, the rain's done, track's drying, time to get out there and set some fast lap times. Airborne setting 1:45s at the moment. We'll keep an eye on the timer. McEwen will be going probably a fair bit faster than that. Angus GTR finds himself up in P2, followed by Simon Bishop. And Big Head Ted now in P5 after heading into the pits, also to switch out to the hard tyres, running 2.5 seconds-ish, or 2.2 seconds-ish behind Simon Bishop. So that one lap on the intermediates cost him quite severely because he was ahead of Simon Bishop during the wet period that we did have. And yeah, it does look like Lewis Atkinson has parked it. Slide the Cat still struggling at the rear of the field, though he will be P13. That's a disaster for Ben Groves to end up in that situation this early on in the race. Monkey Matt in P6, followed by Scotty Ray's found himself up in P7. This is absolutely fascinating. The gaps are starting to evolve a little bit out there, Nathan. There's not too many close battles going on the track. A lot of this is going to start to come down to when you pitted and what tyre you've ended up on. Angus GTR getting overtaken easily by Matthew McEwen. That's the difference between the intermediates and the hard tyres right there.
Absolutely, and I mean Angus, now that the track's sort of drying out, he is ripping up those intermediates, even just as far as tyre wear, as grip. And that's a tricky equation to get right, because when you're running the wet tyres, you almost want to go offline and actually seek the water. You want to drive through the puddles, you want to do everything you can to keep those tyres nice and cool. They're designed to cut through water, and so you need to really find that water to keep them doing what they do. If you do it right, you can pretty much not wear your tyres out at all. But then obviously the track does get to a point where there's just no water, and from there your grip tumbles. So, look, again, if it had worked for him, he would have been a rock star, but unfortunately it just hasn't quite played out then. And again, just heartbreak for the guys who, they made a gamble, and for some of them it perhaps didn't quite work out. So interesting that for we alluded to it earlier, didn't we, that this is a very not common track. It's not it doesn't feature on any real league or group, or even Gran Turismo themselves hardly use it. So those pros are perhaps a bit out of practice, and maybe if you're into very niche racetracks, this might be your groove. But for this one, it certainly is catching more than a few off guard, as we see now Simon with a half a second penalty. So it's I don't actually know where the penalty line is on this course. I'm guessing it's on that straight just after the tunnel. But
we shall keep an eye on his car at the moment. You're right, there's an offset between if you're on the hard tyres and it's still slightly damp out there, you've got to make sure you can control the slick tyres on this sort of surface. It's just there, just before turn 13, I believe it is. So just before you get on the last couple of corners and go in. The window wipers are still going out there. I do wonder if there's a few pitter-pats of rain just coming down towards the end of this race. We're only just finishing lap 5 right now. The other offset, of course, is that the wet tyres, as you said before, have to be kept cool. Otherwise, you find yourself very rapidly sliding off the track on the drier surface, burning up those tyres to an awful degree, especially with 8 times tyre wear here today. So the tyres taking an absolute beating throughout this race. Gaps at the moment look like this: P1 and P2, 4.6 second gap between McEwen and Bishop. Then only 1.8 seconds back to Big Head Ted, who's actually found a bit of pace in the last lap and a half, finding his way back up to the rear wing of Simon Bishop, who sends half his car airborne through the chicane at turns 3 and 4. Then Scotty Ray up into P4. He's just made a move on Monkey Matt. So now we've got two-way battles going on right now. Scotty Ray, down the hill we go into turn 5. Monkey Matt's going to choose the outside line. Inside line defensive move from Scotty Ray. Overspeed for Monkey Matt, though. He's going to late on the brakes. No grip around the outside, though, especially on those tries. Tries a switcheroo. That is the switcheroo of the online season that we've seen so far. Monkey Matt, nicely done.
Absolutely, and I mean, look at the fact, like, we talked about him needing top 5s, and what has he had? He's had a 4th, and now he's sitting in another 4th. Did he have 4th? What did he?
Yeah.
We forgot the finishing order.
Qualified P3, I think it was, or P4. No, P5, I think it was. It was somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Then finished P4, now has started P4, and he's in P4.
So we talked about him needing top 5s, and at the moment he's on for 2 top 5s, which is awesome. Interesting thing too, so the guys who started on the Inters have obviously boxed and they've had that pit loss. The guys that have stuck on the hards, so the people that started on the Inters, they have got considerably better tyre life because they've obviously come out on fresh tyres versus the people that have been on hards from the get-go. So we might see some of that sort of play. I mean, it was enough of an issue at Watkins Glen. We might see it to a lesser extent here at Gardens. And I mean, case in point, Caleb, after that phenomenal first lap attack at Watkins, he's now sitting in 8th. So he's actually a net negative from where he started in this one.
Yeah, with 10 times 8 tyres, I mean, you're doing 8 laps per lap driven. So that's 88 laps around here if you go the full distance on the hard. So no doubt. Dive Cable now trying to make moves. Crimson is in the battle as well, but Caleb's catching back up. So if he gets anything above P7, he will be no longer at a net negative. Dive Cable's got the inside line down to the braking zone at turn 5. Scotty Ray can't do anything to defend that. In fact, he might lose 2 positions. No! That's Crimson's gone sideways and then sideways again. Oh, he's controlled it though. That's beautiful car control from Crimson, despite initiating the spin with a little bit too much acceleration out of turn 5. Boy, oh boy, that was a close one.
See, he managed to gather it up, but look at how much momentum he lost. I mean, he lost 3 spots, and now he's in that sort of no man's land. 1.6 seconds ahead, 2.7 behind. He's just, that's going to be a bit tricky to sort of come back from. But again, if any of these guys have a drama or a penalty or have an issue, Caleb, Scotty, or Gareth, he stands to gain. So at the moment, he kind of just has to be Johnny on the spot and just wait. Basically, it's the patience game.
Exactly right. Yep, and still being led by Matt McKeown. He's looking to make it 3 out of 3 interviews because that's all he cares about. He just wants to talk to us, Nathan. That's my conclusion. He doesn't care about winning the races or the championship. It's about talking to us in the commentary box. Simon Bishop in P2, the bigger Ted holding on to P3 at the moment. Monkey Matt still in P4. And this battle right now is starting to heat up quite significantly. Dive Cable in P5 needs this position, but not in terms of points, just for a bit of pride at the end of the day. Caleb, though, definitely looking to make an overtake on Scotty Ray, and he's got it done. This is actually a really important race for Scotty Ray. He has been lacking in the points a little bit this season. He's currently down there in P10. Needs a good result in at least one of these races. So to have P5 just ahead of him in Dive Cable, he's going to need to hold on to the back of Caleb and maybe try and make an attack. But look at Caleb driving away from the red car of Scotty Ray and making an attack on Dive Cable, forcing him a little bit wide into turn 5. It's going to be a better run out of the corner for Caleb. Dive Cable, though, holding on beautifully. And we've talked about this before. Dive Cable is such a head down, do the laps, get it done kind of person and driver. And he's showing us again that consistency is so important. Not doing anything untoward, making sure that those tyres last as long as they can. That's very wide from Caleb. He's been dipping those tyres onto gravel, not helping his cause here today.
Yeah, certainly right. And it does look like the clouds are starting to break. We're seeing a bit of sunshine, so that's obviously going to be a collective sigh of relief. I don't believe we're supposed to see any more rain for the remainder of this race, so the track will only get better and it'll only grip up. Dive Cable's got the better tyres too, because he started on the Inters, so he's actually put the put tyres on later on in the piece. So his tyres are about probably 2 or 3 laps better than Caleb's. But again, there's just some of those puddles, some of those bits of the racetrack that perhaps still have a bit of moisture on them. There's a word for you, moisture. And it can catch them out. And I mean, you see the way Caleb's going very aggressive on some of those curbs. These are big chunky curbs too. You can really, if you position the car right, you can almost ride them like a roller coaster. But on the flip side, if you get them wrong, and I mean this chicane in particular, look at some of those sausage curves there. You do not want to ride those sausages.
That's right, and there's also a dip as well. We did say earlier on, Airborne managed to make himself go Airborne, and Dive Cable's got it all wrong, taken way too much curb on turn 4, launched himself to the outside line, missed the exit apex, and Scotty Ray goes up into P6, Caleb up into P5. Exactly what you were talking about there, Nathan. Those sausage curbs are deadly.
Maybe a bit of commentator's curse there. Sorry, Gareth, I'll make it up to you in Wellington, I promise. But again, look at Caleb really taking bites out of those curbs. I guess he's safe from track limits because he hasn't been penalised yet. But especially this one up here, have a look at this left-hander, the way he sort of grabs that curb on the exit. He goes over the curb. He wasn't quite too aggressive there. So again, he must be listening to. He's sort of learning from his mistakes, but he's just been so hungry for those curbs, and again, we've seen how easily getting too greedy can lead to penalties, which you don't want with 3 laps to go.
No matter what kind of race you do at Dragon Trail, whether it's Gardens or the Death Chicane setup, curbs are absolutely a part of being fast in these corners, and Caleb has just missed a couple there. Going very sideways. He's putting a lot of pressure into those tyres, getting on the accelerator as early as possible. Doesn't want Scotty Ray to have another chance. Dive Cable catching up to the back of Scotty Ray at the moment. There's a chance there for Dive Cable to get back up into P6 and maybe take the challenge to Caleb, whose tyres look like they're maybe not in the best of condition. But yeah, to be fast around Dragon Trail, it's all about the curbs and how you manage the weight transfer of the car through it. Turn 3, 4, really good example of that, positioning of the car and your lateral momentum, absolutely key through those sectors. Caleb going through turn 3 nicely, rides a massive amount of curb. On turn 4, goes a little bit deep, and there we go. There's the penalty for going a little bit deep on the exit of turn 4. So you said he was riding the line quite a bit. He's managed to push it just a little bit too far this time, and that's going to be good news for Scotty Ray and Gareth Collier.
Yeah, especially, I was going to say Dive Cable's going to see that too, so he's potentially going to lose 2 spots. If he doesn't lose 2, he'll certainly be under attack, and the leading up from the penalty line is what is that? It's not really a hairpin, it's more a double 90, I suppose. It's almost
the last
a square.
2 corners.
Those last 2 corners are almost a square, so it's an interesting complex. You don't really want to get under assault at that point, do you? So half a second, he's definitely going to, 0.3 to Dive Cable, 0.9 to Scotty, and then another 0.3 to Dive Cable. So he's, like I said, if he doesn't get outright past, he's certainly going to be under assault. So let's see how this pans out. We are heading into our final lap, George. Final lap of the online qualifiers.
I know, it's absolutely crazy that we're here already. Oh, Scotty Ray's launched up the inside. That's a bit of an overconfident move, that one. And actually, it's going to cost Scotty Ray a position to Dive Cable. We were on board with a rear wing there, and the penalty for Caleb did cost him a fair bit on that straight. It was just enough to open up a small gap, and Scotty Ray said, yeah, you know what? I'm going to try my luck, and it was a little bit on the pressure side of it, I think, to try and find that opportunity.
Yeah, the fact that he got out of it and the fact that Dive Cable got ahead too, he might escape a bit of Stewart's attention. If he'd obviously pushed his way past and carried on, then that would be a bit more thing. But at the end of the day, Scotty was the big loser of that manoeuvre, so I think it's going to be game on, fair play. Not that Caleb's going to be too happy about that. He certainly doesn't appreciate people, Morse code on his bumper at the best of times. But yeah, I mean, dude, this has just been such a story. And just sort of going through and getting sort of one last look at the pecking order, because I think this is pretty much going to be all she wrote for the online qualifiers. We're going to focus on Scotty and Dive Cable, but
we are coming up to the last couple of corners for Matt McKeown, so we'll go and focus on him in just a second. Lewis Atkinson has gotten started again, does want to finish this race under his own power of his own car, which we absolutely like to see. That is the way to finish a race. But it is going to be Matt McKeown. He's going very, very wide through the last couple of corners, about 1.5 miles too deep there, but he's got the gap to do it. 7.2 seconds, now 6.4. Simon Bishop will be behind him. Matt McKeown, 3 out of 3, comes to the interview once again, goes across the line, takes the checkered flag at the second race of the last round of the online season. He is already guaranteed a position in the live finals. He comes home and says, I am here to win it, and I am doing it in style. Simon Bishop, P2. Let's go back and focus on this battle. Caleb will take P5. Good drive from him overall. Scotty Ray holds on from Dive Cable, who finishes P7, and then Crimson in P8. Wow. Nathan, I feel like we haven't had enough time to watch these chaps tonight. I genuinely feel like that went by far too quickly, especially with all the drama, especially with all the rain at the beginning. And boy, oh boy, we have got some drivers out of position and some in position.
Yeah, look, one of the problems with having such a competitive field and such a fierce field is that obviously you've only got one pair of eyes, so you can only watch one battle or one. We can't really focus on everybody, can we? So, there's been some cracking racing across the grid, and like you say, it's where do you look? What do you sort of who do you focus on? Do you focus on the championship leader, or do you focus on the guys who are trying to make the cut to qualify for Wellington? It's or something in between, because again, we've really had it all this season, and it's just been such an awesome season, such an awesome bunch of racing. And as Ben handbrakes it across the finish line to wrap up this online qualifiers, I think we're in for a treat in Wellington, aren't we?
Oh, we certainly are. And of course, commiserations to all of those. If you haven't made it into the top 10, do not fret. You've still performed incredibly well, and you've provided some unbelievable racing here in the online season. The second season, of course, of racing here at the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. And we now will be able to do a little bit of math in the background. Not us. That'll be up to Tom England to go and crunch some numbers for us. Here are your final results for the second race. McEwen, of course, takes the win. Fastest lap, though, goes to Simon Bishop in P2 at 1:39.5. Big Head Ted gets his best result of the season up there in P3. Well done to Big Head Ted. Monkey Matt in P4. That's 2 P4 finishes for Monkey Matt on return. Excellent work by him, and I think that's maybe done enough to get him up into the top 10 for the live finals. Caleb Bertels puts himself up 2 positions from 7th to 5th after a little bit of a mid-race disaster. Scotty Ray in P6. Good result for him. Gareth Collier in P7. Crimson in P8. Then it's Airborne going from P2 to P9 in this second round at Dragon Trail Gardens. P10 goes to Stone Harbour. Clan Fever claws his way back up into P11, followed by Angus GTR in P12. Then Sly Ben the Cat, that's Ben Groves in P13, and Lewis Atkinson in P14. And that has really mixed up some of the points. We know that Lewis is going through into the live finals. We weren't so sure about Ben Groves, and he's had one good result in round 1. He's had maybe not so good a result here today in round 2. In fact, I don't think that round 1 result, race one result was actually that great either. So this could be on the limit here for Ben Groves and Clan Fever and Stone Harbour. We shall see. First of all, Nathan, we've got to talk quickly about our driver of the day here. So let's get our 5 up there so we can get the poll started, and then we can talk to our interviewee. Third time out of 3 here today for Matt McEwen. But first, let's talk driver of the day. Any standouts for you?
Well, again, I mean, obviously, again, McEwen winning. He's just on form as always. I'd say probably Caleb, because he really got dealt the hand. I think he started on the slicks and got sort of, he was part of the group at the back that was struggling for traction, and then the track dried up in 5th place. So that doesn't happen by itself. Yeah,
I think we've got to have Big Head Ted. It's got to go in there for P3.
Certainly.
Monkey Matt for P4. Yep, exactly right. Yeah. And I think it's probably worth giving Scotty Ray a shout out because he wasn't originally in Div 1, has made it up into Div 2. And
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Pretty decent of racing there today as well here at Dragon Trail Gardens. So let's put Scotty Ray in as well. Okay, we've got a 10-minute vote coming up. Please jump into twitch.tv/Respawn Esports Center and jump into this poll, because we need your opinions on who is going to take the drive of the day for the second race. So get voting. Let us know who you think has done enough to get your vote. And in the meantime, we're going to go and head to another interview with Matthew McEwen. Well, let's hear from the man in just a moment's time as I bring him in to the commentary chat, and we will switch over to our Next Level Racing winners interview screen. And hello again, Matthew McEwen. We have to offer you a third congratulations this evening. You got race 1 qualifying pole, you got the race 1 win, and now you're back here for the win in race 2 at Dragon Trail Gardens. One that was full of weather, full of interesting tactics, and a very early pit stop for you. How was that race? You are the online season winner. That's got to feel great.
Yeah, it was great. I'm obviously very, very happy to win. It puts me in a good position for the championship finals in Wellington. But yeah, the race was interesting. I was really, really hoping it was going to be absolute chaos with really heavy rain. Ended up not quite seeing that. But coming into the into that practice session, I could kind of see the rain was just going to go away immediately. There was going to be no water on the track very, very quickly. And so I was tempted to run the hards, and I saw a couple of people sitting on the hards, and I was really wondering. Airborne was one of them, and then he ended up staying out a couple of laps. I thought that he was going to end up just beating everyone by surviving on hards for a lap and just never pitting.
Yes, we had a couple of hard runners out there, and they didn't have the best start to that race. There was just enough surface water to really make it tricky on those slick tires initially. So it seems like intermediates were the call, but it was what, 2 laps on the intermediates, and then the hards were good.
Yeah, I think I did either 1 or 2 laps on inters, and it was definitely enough. Didn't really need anything more than that, you know.
Too right. Let's have a couple of questions from Nathan, and then we'll talk a little bit more before we start to sign out the online season. But from my side, at the very least, congratulations, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly, phenomenal job as always. And again, you're the man that people would put their money on for doing well in this series, much less winning. Yeah, how was that sort of? Because in the practice and the warm up, the track actually dried out, didn't it? And then the start line sort of everyone got onto the start line, and suddenly it's another wet track. So did that sort of catch you off guard, or it certainly caught a few off?
Uh, it didn't. No, it didn't really surprise me because that's been part of the game for a while. But I think a few guys might have just been trying to hopefully survive on, at the back of the pack with the driest possible track, and then skip the pit stop, which was a daring strategy, and I would have actually been very close to it if it had been even just a minute, just sitting there waiting for the grid to happen or something. I think I might have gone hards.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some people did, and we saw how that played out. Um, we mentioned at the start of the stream that the live finals were not using the 86, and of course the exact car list we're not going to. Well, I believe Atom's keeping that one under wraps until a bit later on in the piece. Are you happy to get out of the 86, or would you have rather that the live event? I mean, we've done so much mileage in the Toyota 86. Why change now, or are you happy to be rid of it?
A bit of both. I've obviously become pretty accustomed to the car, but at the same time, it'll be exciting to try something different. And so, I'm not really too fussed with it either way.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we look forward to catching up with you in Wellington. I'm sure we'll have a ginger beer and a Coke or whatever. But yeah, for now, just congratulations, man. Stellar effort.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good luck. Thank you very much. We'll see you down here in a month's time. Matt McKeown, ladies and gentlemen, your online season victor takes 6 championship points into the live finals. Matthew McKeown, what a season he has put on for us. Absolutely incredible stuff. Please keep on voting. We've got the votes coming in. We're a split tie right now, 4 and 4, so it may come down to us to try and create some sort of consensus, Nathan. So we need some more votes. Jump into chat here at twitch.tv/Respawn Esports Center and give us your vote. We want to know. We've only got 8 or 9 votes in total. We've got a split between Big Ed Ted and Scotty Ray. So we need some more opinions. Please go and vote in the chat. You can always type in there as well. I could keep an eye on that. But we need your votes.
Let's throw some opinions in there. So you made a good point about Scotty Ray. Scotty Ray was originally Div 2. So he's made it up into Div 1, and now he's doing as well as he is against the gold standard, right? On the flip side, you got Big Head Ted. Now, Ted qualified last year. He was in Wellington. We know he's a wet weather, not necessarily a master, but he's a drift legend. So he knows a thing about keeping a car under control when you're sliding. Yeah, that's really all the exposition I can offer. So if you guys want to make a call, make a decision, what do we got now? A few minutes left, George?
We've got a few minutes left. So we're only halfway through the drive of the day. So we've still got about 4 or 5 minutes. There we go. Tiebreakers come in. Scotty Ray has managed to get himself an extra vote there. That said, it takes nothing away from everyone out there on track, or certainly on the board we've got for driver of the day. Been very, very impressive racing. And the whole online season has been absolutely fantastic. It's been 8 weeks, 6 rounds, technically 10 races overall. Absolutely brilliant. And the top 10 get themselves a chance to drive in those live finals down in Wellington. Absolutely brilliant stuff from everyone on the grid. So no matter, I think this is a really important thing to say as well, no matter where you finished in this online season, what the racing that we have seen over the last 8 weeks has been absolutely brilliant. It's been at the tippy top of what we'd expect from sim racers and esports drivers from New Zealand, and it's been absolutely brilliant. So regardless of where you finish in the online season, pat yourself on the back, all right? Do it, because you've driven incredibly well and you've performed incredibly well. So no matter what, whether it's commiserations you're going to be getting or congratulations you're going to be getting, give yourself a pat on the back. You deserve it, and you deserve to be proud of what you've achieved. Remember, there's always season 3, which isn't formally announced, but you know what? I'm hoping it's going to be a season 3, and I think there will be, because this has been such a brilliant season.
I would hope so. But, you know, look, we've had some phenomenal support come on board, like you say. Toyota Gazoo are really backing the whole virtual to reality story. We love that. Red Bull, Next Level Racing, all the rest of them that I've no doubt forgotten that you're gonna remind me of. But yeah, I mean, this has just been, like you say, it's been 8 weeks of really the gold standard. These are the single top drivers in the country, and if you want to claim otherwise, then you should have been here racing, shouldn't you? So
Exactly right. Exactly right.
yeah,
You've got to be in
yeah.
it to win it, and you've got to show that you've got the right stuff. So we do have some points here, Nathan. Okay, so Tom England has done some work in the background. So we do have some points. I want to make it very, very clear to everyone that these are not fully official yet. Okay, the admin team will go to the back and
pending any stewards' inquiries or anything like that. Yep.
The admin team will go in the background and they will confirm all of these numbers, which will be available in the NZERS Discord. Okay, so these are provisional results only. But at the moment, here's the top 10 going to the live finals on the 16th of November. Of course, Matthew McKeown, right? 234 points for him. Then Simon Bishop. Then it is Davidson. That's Big Head Ted. Actually, P3 on points. Got himself a whole bunch of points in that second race. So he's actually third overall. Only 3 points between him and Gareth Collier, who holds on, takes P4 overall. Then Lewis Atkinson. So he had a disaster in race 2 today, but he's qualified for the top 10. That's your top 5. Then it is Caleb Birtles qualifying in P6. P7 goes to Knowles. That is Airborne has qualified for the live finals in P7. And then we got McDonald, that's NZ Crimson in P8, qualifies. Monkey Matt makes his way to the live finals once again in P9. Congratulations. And then the last spot, which came down to only 2 points between 3 drivers. And it looks like Scotty Ray has managed to make it into the top 10, ahead of Sly Ben and Andre, Olaf Fresh and Alan, who unfortunately will be outside the top 10. So Scotty Ray takes that 10th position by only 2 points, 121 points to 119 for both Sly Ben and Andre. That's Stone Harbour. Very, very close at the bottom of the field. We did say it was going to come down to almost nothing. So a big congratulations to those in the top 10. We will see you all, provided these provisional results hold. So keep an eye on the Discord for confirmation of any of these results. And, of course, commiserations to those who are not in the top 10. However, why don't you come down to Wellington anyway? We want to hang out with you. We want to meet you. And we want you to watch the racing right up and close. So get down to Wellington anyway, because if you're in the top 10, you would have had to buy that ticket regardless. So why don't you come down anyway and join us here at the NZERS on the 16th of November at the Respawn Esports Centre in Wellington. You can reach out to any of the admin team in the background for information on when and where. Wow. Some huge results there, and what a season of racing, Nathan. I'm a little bit speechless, and that doesn't happen often.
Yeah, certainly. That's like you say. What do you expect when you have such talented drivers? And I mean, speaking of talented, I mean, Psydog has actually just jumped across to ACC, and he's set a time for an endurance race, which is this weekend in GT3 cars. He's currently top 3 in a quality, so he's jumped straight out of an 86, jumped into a 992 Porsche, and he's just got straight to business. So you know, some of these guys are just so versatile, and they do all the sim racing they can. They immerse themselves in the world, and like I said, that's why they're the top. And if you have something to say about it, then come and join us next season.
Absolutely right. And I do have a comment in chat that I think sums up a lot of this very, very nicely from Stone Harbour, who did finish 12th. He says, I'm going to spend the day anyway meeting you guys. From me, thank you guys. First ever NZERS season where I actually finished and tested my abilities. I'm honoured to have raced with you guys. And I think that really does sum things up. So to all those who we give congratulations in the top 10 and those we give commiserations, P11 to P14. Come down to Wellington anyway. Get yourselves down here. We want to meet you. We want to hang out because this is a great community here that we've got going on. Nathan, you've got places to be, and I think it's time that we probably round out the stream. Now, I did see a tie between Big Head Ted and Scotty Ray, so we're gonna have to figure this one out. We have to flip a coin. We have to flip a coin. Okay, I've got a coin here. It's not really a coin. It's the lens of a camera. No.
I'll let you be the.
No. It's coin. We're gonna do a coin here.
All right. Okay.
Big Head Ted is gonna be this side of the camera. We'll try and get that in focus, and that's gonna be Scotty Ray is gonna be the one with Canon. Okay. So let's flip this and see what happens. All right, here we go.
Yeah, come on.
Big Head Ted takes the driver of the day for race 2. Congratulations, Big Head Ted. Driver of the day for race 2 is yours. Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
Phenomenal.
a final huge thank you to all our sponsors here at the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand, Secret Labs and Respawn Esports, Next Level Racing and Red Bull New Zealand. Thank you all so much for providing the prizes. We look forward to an unbelievable day of racing, an evening of racing on the 16th of November, where the live finals will take place to find out who is New Zealand's fastest Gran Turismo 7 driver once again in 2024. My name is George Cook. It's been a pleasure doing the broadcasting and commentary here today once again, and a huge thank you to Nathan Howe, who's been an absolute legend in the comms box as well. A final word from yourself, Nathan, and then we're going to round things out for the online season.
Mate, we'll catch up with you guys in Wellington. Like he says, come along. Respawn Esports is a heck of a place, and if you're in the region, come and say good day.
Absolutely right. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you to everyone out there on Twitch, on YouTube. Thank you to Tom England and all the organisers in the background. We appreciate it so much. We will see you in a month's time on the 16th of November as the NZERS crowns its grand champion in 2024. Thank you all so much. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, and we will see you for the live finals in Wellington. Good evening, good night, and goodbye.